The year was 2387. The galaxy was a big place, with many different alien races living in it. Some were friendly, others were not. But there was one rule that everyone followed without question. No one entered human territory. Commander Jake Harrison stood on the bridge of his ship, looking out at the empty space ahead. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. For 20 years, he had been watching the border between human space and the rest of the galaxy. Nothing ever happened here. Nothing ever changed. "Sir, the morning report is ready," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez. She was younger than Jake, with dark hair and bright eyes. She had been working with him for 5 years now. Jake took the report and read it quickly. Same as always. No ships trying to cross the border. No strange signals from deep space. Numbered problems at all. "Anything interesting out there, Amy?" Jake asked. "No, sir. Just the usual patrol ships from the other races. They keep their distance, just like always." Jake nodded. The alien races were smart. They knew not to come too close to human space. It had been that way for over 200 years, ever since humans first met the other races in the galaxy, far away. In the capital city of the Zephyrian Empire, War Prime Kethfer was having a very different conversation. He was a large creature with blue skin and 4 arms. His people were warriors, and they had been expanding their territory for decades. "Tell me again why we cannot take the human worlds," Kethfer said to his advisor. "The treaty, War Prime. It was signed long ago. The humans have their space, and we have ours." "But look at the star charts," Kethfer said, pointing to a holographic display. "Their space is huge, hundreds of star systems. And what do? With all that space? Nothing. They barely use it." The advisor looked nervous. "The other races say we should leave the humans alone." "The other races are weak," Kethfer growled. "They are afraid of everything. But I have studied the humans. They are a small race. They have old technology. They should be easy to defeat." Kethfer had been thinking about this for months. His empire needed new worlds. His people were growing in number, and they needed places to live. The human territory looked perfect. It was mostly empty, with only a few small colonies scattered around. Meanwhile, on the space station that served as the meeting place for the Galactic Council, Ambassador Lisa Carter was attending another boring meeting. She was a woman in her 50s, with brown hair and a calm face. She had been representing humanity for 10 years. "The Zephyrians are asking questions again," said the council leader, a tall alien with green skin. "They want to know why human space is off limits." Lisa sighed. "This question came up every few years. The same reason it has always been off limits. The treaty clearly states that each race controls their own territory. But surely you can tell us what is in your space," said another council member. "We are all friends here." Lisa smiled politely. "Some things are better left alone. That is all I can say." The other council members looked at each other. They had been curious about human space for centuries, but the humans never explained why they wanted to be left alone. Most aliens thought humans were just shy or scared. After the meeting, Lisa walked through the station's corridors. She passed aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some had fur, others had scales. Some were tall, others were short. But they all had one thing in common. They all stayed away from human space. Lisa knew why, but she could never tell them. It was better this way, safer for everyone. Back on his ship, Jake was eating dinner when Amy rushed onto the bridge. "Sir, we have a problem," she said. "Long-range sensors are picking up something strange." Jake put down his food and followed her to the sensor station. "What kind of strange Zephyrian ships?" "Lots of them. They are gathering near the border." Jake frowned. This was unusual. The Zephyrians sometimes sent single ships to patrol near human space, but never large groups. "How many ships?" he asked. "At least 50, sir. Maybe more." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. 50 ships was not a patrol. It was a fleet, and fleets meant only one thing: war. Send a message to Earth Command, Jake said. Tell them, we might have a situation. Amy nodded and began typing on her console. Jake watched the sensor display, counting the Zephyrian ships. They were staying just outside human space, but they were definitely planning something. On the Zephyrian flagship, Fleet Admiral Vexmore was giving final orders to his captains. He was an old warrior with many scars on his blue skin. Remember, he said, the humans are weak. They will run as soon as they see us. We will take their border worlds first, then move deeper into their space. The captains nodded. They had heard stories about how peaceful the humans were, how they never fought wars anymore, how they spent their time growing flowers and writing poetry. What if they fight back? Asked one young captain. Vexmore laughed. With what? Their ships are old and slow. Their weapons are weak. They have not fought a real war in centuries. The other captains laughed too. They were not worried about the humans. They were more worried about dividing up the human worlds after they conquered them, back on Earth, in the underground command center that few people knew existed. Admiral Kevin Stone was reading Jake's message. He was an old man with white hair and cold eyes. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. Sir, said his assistant, should we warn the Zephyrians? Admiral Stone thought for a moment. Send them one message. Tell them they are making a mistake. After that, we follow the protocols. The assistant nodded and left the room. Admiral Stone looked at the wall display, showing human space. To the aliens, it looked empty and peaceful. They had no idea what was really out there. He pressed a button on his desk. Deep in the earth, old machines began to wake up. Machines that had been sleeping for 200 years. Machines that the galaxy had never seen before. The message was sent to the Zephyrians. It was simple and short. You are making a mistake. Turn back now. Vexmore read the message and laughed. They are already scared, he told his captains. Tomorrow, we cross into human space. Tomorrow, we begin the conquest. But as the Zephyrian fleet prepared to attack, they had no idea that they were about to learn why the galaxy's most important rule existed, why no one entered human territory, and why that rule had kept the peace for over 2 centuries. The humans were not weak. They were not scared. They were something much more dangerous than that. They were ready. The next morning came too quickly for Jake Harrison. He had not slept well, thinking about the 50 Zephyrian ships gathering near the border. When Amy Rodriguez brought him his coffee, her face was serious. Sir, they are moving, she said. Jake jumped up from his chair and ran to the bridge. On the main screen, he could see the Zephyrian fleet crossing the invisible line that marked the edge of human space. They were really doing it. After 200 years of peace, someone was finally breaking the rule. Open a channel, Jake ordered. Amy pressed some buttons on her console. Channel open, sir. Jake took a deep breath. Zephyrian fleet, this is Commander Harrison of the Terran Defense Force. You have entered restricted space. Turn back now. The response came quickly. It was Fleet Admiral Vexmore's voice, full of confidence and pride. Human Commander, this is Fleet Admiral Vexmore of the Zephyrian Empire. We claim this space for our people. Surrender now, and we will not harm you. Jake looked at Amy. She was staring at the screen with wide eyes. Neither of them had ever seen alien ships inside human space before. It felt wrong, like watching someone break into your home. Admiral, Jake said into the microphone, you have been warned. Please turn back. This is your last chance. Vex laughed. The sound came through the speakers and filled the bridge. You cannot stop us, human. We have 50 ships. How many do you have? 3? 4? We will sweep you aside like dust. Jake closed the channel and turned to Amy. Send the code red signal to Earth Command. Tell them the line has been crossed. Amy nodded and began typing fast on her keyboard. Jake watched the Zephyrian ships on the screen. They were moving deeper into human space, heading toward the nearest human colony. On the Zephyrian flagship, Vexmore was feeling very pleased with himself. The humans had tried to warn him, but their voice had sounded scared. He knew he was making the right choice. "Captain," he said to his second-in-command, "how far to the first human world?" 2 days at current speed, Admiral. "Good. We will take it easily. The humans will not even fight back." But as the Zephyrian fleet moved through space, they did not notice the small objects floating in the darkness around them. The objects looked like space rocks, but they were not rocks at all. They were watching and listening and sending information back to places the Zephyrians had never seen. 3 hours later, the Zephyrians encountered their first human patrol. It was a small group of ships, led by Captain Nicole Brooks. She was a woman in her 40s, with red hair and green eyes. She had been patrolling this area for 15 years. "Captain," said her communications officer, "we have incoming ships. 50 of them. They are Zephyrian." Nicole nodded calmly. She had been expecting this. "Send them the standard message." The communications officer pressed a button. "Zephyrian Fleet, this is Captain Brooks of the Human Defense Force. You are in violation of galactic law. Turn back immediately." Vexmore received the message and laughed again. He could see the human ships on his screen. There were only 3 of them, small ships with old designs. They looked like toys compared to his mighty fleet. "Human captain," he said, "you are outnumbered. Surrender now, and we will let you live." Nicole looked at her crew. They were all calm and ready. They had trained for this moment their whole lives. "Negative," she replied. "You were warned." Vexmore shook his head. These humans were either very brave or very stupid. "Open fire," he ordered. The Zephyrian ships began shooting their weapons at the human patrol. Bright beams of energy flew through space toward the small human ships. But something strange happened. The beams seemed to bend around the human ships, as if they were being pushed away by invisible hands. "What is happening?" Vexmore demanded. "Sir, our weapons are not working," said his weapons officer. "Something is blocking them." On Nicole's ship, her crew was working calmly at their stations. "Shields at 100%, reported her engineer. "Their weapons cannot penetrate our defenses." Nicole smiled. The Zephyrians were about to learn their first lesson about human technology. But this was just the beginning. "Send the activation code," she ordered. Her communications officer sent a short message into space. To the Zephyrians it looked like random noise. But deep in human space, old machines received the signal and began to wake up. Admiral Kevin Stone was sitting in his command center on Earth, watching everything happen on his screens. He could see the Zephyrian fleet, confused and angry because their weapons were not working. He could see Nicole's small patrol, calm and ready for what came next. "Sir," said his assistant, "the first wave is ready." Admiral Stone nodded. "Send them out." Far away, in the depths of space, something began to move. Something that had been hiding in the darkness for 200 years. Something that the galaxy had never seen before. Captain Ryan Mitchell was commanding one of the ships in the first wave. He was a young man with black hair and serious eyes. He had been born in space, on one of the hidden human bases that the galaxy did not know about. "All ships, this is Captain Mitchell," he said into his radio. "Remember, we are not trying to destroy them. We are trying to teach them." His ship and 20 others suddenly appeared around the Zephyrian fleet. They seemed to come from nowhere, as if they had been invisible until that moment. Vexmore stared at his screens in shock. Where had these ships come from? They were not like the old human ships he had seen before. These were sleek and powerful, with designs he had never seen. "Admiral," said his sensor officer, "more ships are appearing. I count, 50, 100. Still counting." Vexmore felt cold fear creeping up his spine. This was not what he had expected. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to run away. "Human ships," he said into his radio. "I demand an explanation. Where did you come from?" Captain Mitchell's voice came back, calm and steady. "We have always been here, Admiral. You just could not see us." More and more human ships appeared around the Zephyrian fleet. Soon they were completely surrounded. The Zephyrians had 50 ships, but the humans had hundreds. "This is impossible," Thismore whispered. On Earth, Admiral Stone was watching the screens with satisfaction. The Zephyrians were learning the first rule of human space. Nothing was as it seemed. "Sir," said his assistant, "should we proceed to Phase 2? Admiral Stone looked at the confused Zephyrian fleet on his screen. They were brave warriors, but they had no idea what they had walked into. "Not yet," he said. "Let them think about this first." In space, the Zephyrian fleet sat surrounded by human ships. They had come to conquer, but now they were trapped, and they were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. The humans had been waiting for this moment. They were ready, and the galaxy was about to learn why no one entered human territory. Fleet Admiral Vexmore stared at the screens around him. Hundreds of human ships surrounded his fleet. They had appeared from nowhere, like ghosts in the darkness. His hands were shaking as he tried to understand what was happening. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission." "Put it on the main screen," Vexmore ordered. A human woman appeared on the screen. She had short brown hair and cold blue eyes. She was wearing a military uniform that Vexmore had never seen before. "I am Colonel Maria Santos of the Human Defense Force," she said. "You have entered restricted space. This is your final warning." Dex tried to sound brave, but his voice came out weak. We demand safe passage. We are explorers, not invaders." Colonel Santos smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "You fired on our ships, Admiral. That makes you invaders." On her ship, the HSS Retribution, Maria was watching the Zephyrian fleet with calm eyes. She had been waiting for this moment for 20 years. Finally, someone had been foolish enough to test human defenses. "Colonel," said her weapons officer, "all systems are ready." "Not yet," Maria replied. "Let them see what they are really facing." First, she pressed a button on her command chair. All around human space, more ships began to appear. Not hundreds this time, but thousands. They came from hidden bases, from cloaked space stations, from places that had been invisible to alien eyes for centuries. The Zephyrian sensor officer was counting ships, but he kept losing track. "Admiral, I cannot count them all. There are too many." Vexmore felt sick. His 50 ships looked like toys compared to the massive human fleet that surrounded them. But these were not the old, slow ships that his spies had told him about. These were sleek and powerful, with weapons he had never seen before. "How is this possible?" he whispered. On Earth, Admiral Stone was watching everything from his command center. He could see the fear in the Zephyrian Admiral's eyes. It was time to show them the truth. "Open a channel to all human ships," he ordered. "Channel open, sir. This is Admiral Stone to all units. Begin Phase 2. Across human space, things that had been hidden for 200 years began to reveal themselves. Space stations the size of moons appeared from behind cloaking fields. Massive shipyards that had been invisible became visible. Weapons platforms that could destroy entire fleets powered up for the first time in decades. Commander Alex Turner was commanding one of the revealed space stations. He was a man in his 50s, with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. "Sir," said his communications officer, "the aliens are requesting to speak with you." Alex nodded. "Put them through." Vexmore's face appeared on the screen. The proud warrior from that morning was gone. Now he looked scared and confused. "Human Commander," Vexmore said, "we did not know. We thought your space was empty." Alex laughed softly. "Empty? Admiral, you are looking at the most heavily defended space in the galaxy. We have more ships here than all the other races combined. This was not entirely true, but Alex wanted to make a point. The Zephyrians needed to understand what they had walked into. But why? Dexmore asked. Why do you hide all of this? Because, Alex said, the galaxy is not ready for what we have built. On another ship, Captain Chris Evans was preparing his crew for a demonstration. He was a young man with blonde hair and bright eyes. He had been born on one of the hidden human worlds, and he had never seen alien space. Captain, said his weapons officer, target is selected. Chris looked at the screen. There was a small asteroid floating in space, about a mile away from the Zephyrian fleet. It was the perfect target for what he had in mind. Fire, he ordered. A beam of pure energy shot from his ship. But this was not like the weapons the Zephyrians had used. This beam was different. It touched the asteroid, and the huge rock simply vanished. Not destroyed, not broken apart, but completely gone. The Zephyrian fleet watched in horror. Their own weapons could damage asteroids, but they could not make them disappear entirely. What was that? Vexmore demanded. That, said Chris, was a Class 7 disintegrator. We have bigger ones. The truth was starting to become clear to the Zephyrians. The humans were not weak. They were not using old technology. They had been hiding their true strength for centuries. Dr. Patricia Wong was watching everything from her research station. She was a small woman with black hair and thick glasses. She had spent her life studying alien technology, looking for weaknesses. Admiral Stone, she said into her radio, should I show them the defense grid? Do it, came the reply. Patricia pressed a series of buttons on her console. Around the entire human territory, a network of energy fields became visible. They connected every human world, every space station, every hidden base. It was a shield that could protect the entire human civilization. My God, whispered the Zephyrian sensor officer. They have turned their entire space into a fortress. Vexmore was beginning to understand. The humans had not been hiding because they were weak. They had been hiding because they were too strong. They had built a military force that could conquer the entire galaxy. Why? He asked again. Why build all of this if you do not plan to use it? Colonel Santos answered him. Because we learned something that your people have not learned yet, Admiral. Sometimes the best way to win a war is to be so strong that no one wants to fight you. On Earth, Admiral Stone was reading reports from across human space. Every hidden base was now visible. Every secret weapon was powered up. Every ship that had been hiding was now in the open. Sir, said his assistant, the Galactic Council is requesting an emergency meeting. Stone nodded. They can wait. We are not done here yet. General Susan Clark was commanding the largest human fleet. She was a tall woman with silver hair and hard eyes. She had been preparing for galactic war for 30 years. Admiral, she said, to Vexmore you came here thinking you could conquer us. But look around you. We could conquer your entire empire without leaving our own space. This was true. The human fleet that surrounded the Zephyrians was just a small part of their total force. They had enough ships to fight every other race in the galaxy at the same time. But we do not want to conquer anyone, General Clark continued. We want to be left alone. That is why we built the barrier. That is why we made the rule. Vexmore was finally beginning to understand. The humans had not been hiding from the galaxy. They had been protecting the galaxy from themselves. What happens now? He asked. Now, said Admiral Stone, appearing on the screen, you learn why the rule exists. You go back to your people and tell them what you have seen. You tell them why no one enters human territory. The Zephyrian admiral looked around at the thousands of human ships surrounding his small fleet. He thought about the weapons that could make asteroids disappear. He thought about the defense grid that protected an entire civilization. We understand, he said quietly. We will leave. Good, said Admiral Stone. But first, You need to see. One more thing. He pressed a button on his console. Deep in human space, something huge began to move. It was a ship, but it was larger than any ship the Zephyrians had ever seen. It was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons and armor. That, said Admiral Stone, is just one of our battleships. We have dozens of them. The Zephyrian fleet sat in stunned silence. They had come to conquer the humans, but they had found something else entirely. They had found a race that could destroy the galaxy if they wanted to. But the humans did not want to destroy anything. They wanted to be left alone, and now the galaxy would know why that was so important. The demonstration was over, the lesson had been learned, and the rule would never be broken again. Admiral Stone made a decision that would change everything. Instead of destroying the Zephyrian fleet, he would let one ship go home. But not just any ship. He would let them take the truth with them. Colonel Santos, he said over the radio, select one Zephyrian ship. Load it with our complete files on galactic military capabilities. Everything we know about every race. Maria Santos understood immediately. Sir, are you sure? That information is classified. Not anymore, Stone replied. The galaxy needs to know what we know. On the Zephyrian flagship, Vexmore was watching his sensors in confusion. The human ships were moving away from his fleet, but they were not attacking. Instead, they seemed to be waiting. Admiral, said his communications officer, we are receiving a data transmission from the humans. It is very large. What kind of data? Vexmore asked. Before anyone could answer, Admiral Stone's voice came through the speakers. Admiral Vexmore, you are about to receive information that will change how you see the galaxy. Study it carefully. The data began flowing into the Zephyrian computers. It was not just information about human weapons and ships. It was detailed analysis of every alien race in the galaxy. Their strengths, their weaknesses, their military capabilities, their plans for expansion. Sir, said the Zephyrian intelligence officer, this data shows that the humans have been watching us for centuries. They know everything about our military. Vexmore felt cold fear in his stomach. If the humans knew everything about his people, then they could destroy the Zephyrian Empire whenever they wanted. But there was more. The data showed that humans had been studying every race in the galaxy. They knew about the Altarian secret weapons. They knew about the vegan expansion plans. They knew about alliances that had not been made public. How long have they been watching us? Vexmore whispered. The answer came from Dr. Patricia Wang, speaking from her research station. Since the day we first met your people, Admiral, we have been preparing for this moment for over 200 years. On Earth, in a secret meeting room, the human leaders were discussing what to tell the galaxy. President Karen Miller was there, along with Admiral Stone and General Clark. They were the ones who made the hard decisions. The Galactic Council will want explanations, said President Miller. She was a woman in her 60s with white hair and kind eyes, but her kindness hid a core of steel. Let them ask, said General Clark. We have nothing to hide anymore. What about the other races? Asked Admiral Stone. When they learn what we have built, some of them might panic. President Miller nodded. That is why we are going to tell them the whole truth. Not just about our weapons, but about why we built them. The truth was more complex than the aliens realized. Humans had not built their military to conquer the galaxy. They had built it because they had seen the future, and they knew what was coming. Captain Chris Evans was speaking to the Zephyrian fleet from his ship. Admiral, your people are not the only ones who wanted to expand. In the past 50 years, we have detected 12 different races planning to invade their neighbors. This was news to Vexmore. His intelligence services had only known about 3, or for expansion plans. The Koranian Empire was planning to attack the Vegan Republic next year, Chris continued. The Altarians were building a secret fleet to conquer the Zephyrian border worlds. The Nexus Coalition was preparing to invade human space in 10 years. Each revelation hit the Zephyrian admiral like a physical blow. The galaxy was not as peaceful as it seemed. Everyone was preparing for war. But why tell us this? Dexmore asked. Because, said Admiral Stone, someone needs to keep the peace. And we are the only ones strong enough to do it. The complete truth was finally revealed. Humans had not been hiding from the galaxy. They had been preparing to save it from itself. Commander Alex Turner explained it further. Every race in the galaxy has been planning to attack someone else. If we had not been here, watching and preparing, the galaxy would have been at war decades ago. But you could have stopped the wars by conquering everyone, Dexmore said. Yes, said General Clark, but conquest is not peace. It is just another form of war. The humans had chosen a different path. Instead of conquering the galaxy, they had built a force so powerful that no one would dare start a war. They had become the guardians of galactic peace. Every time a race planned an invasion, explained Dr. Wong, we sent them a subtle message, a trade agreement that was too good to refuse, a diplomatic crisis that required their attention, a mysterious technical problem with their weapon systems. The Zephyrians were beginning to understand. The humans had been manipulating galactic politics for centuries, preventing wars before they could start. The failed Altarian invasion of the Vegan Republic 20 years ago, said Chris Evans. Their ships mysteriously broke down just before the attack. That was us. The Coranian plague that stopped their expansion 15 years ago, added Colonel Santos. We created the cure and made sure they found it, but only after their expansion plans were abandoned. The trade disputes that broke up the Nexus Coalition, said Commander Turner. We arranged those to prevent them from unifying against us. Dexmore was amazed. The humans had been preventing wars across the galaxy, and no one had known it was happening. Why? He asked. Why do all this for races that would have attacked you? President Miller's voice came through the speakers. Because peace is better than war, Admiral. Even if we could win every war, the galaxy would be a darker place if we had to fight them. The final revelation was the most shocking of all. That humans had not just been preventing wars. They had been preparing for something bigger. Admiral, said Admiral Stone, show me your star charts. The ones that show the unexplored regions of the galaxy. Dexmore was confused, but he ordered his navigation officer to display the charts. They showed the known galaxy, with the territories of all the major races marked. Now look at this, said Stone. The human data transmission included star charts that went far beyond what any other race had explored. They showed regions of space that the galaxy had never seen. We have been exploring beyond the known galaxy for centuries, Stone explained, and we have found something that you need to know about. The charts showed massive alien structures in the unexplored regions. Ships that were larger than planets, weapons that could destroy entire star systems, and they were moving toward the known galaxy. In approximately 100 years, said Stone, these aliens will reach our galaxy. They have already destroyed dozens of other galaxies. When they arrive, every race in our galaxy will need to work together to survive. The truth was complete now. The humans had not been preparing for war against the known races. They had been preparing for war against something much worse. That is why we built our defenses, said General Clark. Not to conquer you, but to protect you. When the time comes, you will need us. Dexmore stared at the star charts, showing the approaching alien threat. His invasion of human space suddenly seemed very small and foolish. What do we do now? He asked. Now, said Admiral Stone, you go home. You tell your people what you have learned. You tell them why the rule exists, and you prepare them for what is coming. The Zephyrian fleet began to leave human space, but they were not the same people who had entered it. They had come as conquerors, but they were leaving as allies. The galaxy was about to learn the truth about human territory, and it would never be the same. 3 days later, The emergency meeting of the Galactic Council was unlike any meeting in history. Representatives from every major race crowded into the Great Hall, their faces showing fear, confusion, and anger. Ambassador Lisa Carter walked calmly to the center of the room. She looked the same as always, but now everyone knew that her quiet manner hid enormous power. The Zephyrian Empire has shared some interesting information with you, she said, looking around the room. I am here to confirm that everything they told you is true. The room erupted in voices. Aliens were shouting questions, making demands, and expressing their shock. The council leader, a tall alien with green skin, banged his gavel for order. Ambassador Carter, he said, the Zephyrian data suggests that humanity has been interfering in galactic affairs for centuries. Is this true? Lisa nodded calmly. Yes, it is true. We have been preventing wars, stopping invasions, and maintaining peace. You are welcome, welcome, shouted the Altarian representative. You manipulated our politics without our knowledge. Yes, Lisa replied. We stopped you from invading the Vegan Republic. Millions of lives were saved. Would you prefer that we had let you start that war? The Altarian representative fell silent. The planned invasion had been very unpopular with his people. If it had happened, it would have destroyed his government. The Coranian ambassador stood up. You created the plague that stopped our expansion. No, Lisa said firmly. We created the cure that saved your people. The plague was natural, but we made sure you found the cure only after you abandoned your invasion plans. Across the galaxy, the news was spreading. On every world, aliens were learning the truth about human territory. The reactions were mixed. On the Zephyrian home world, War Prime Kethfer was reading the complete report from Fleet Admiral Vexmore. His hands shook as he read about the human weapons and defenses. Sir, said his advisor, what do we do now? Kethfer looked at the star charts, showing the approaching alien threat. We prepare for a war that will make our petty conflicts look like children's games. He issued orders that would have been impossible just a week before. The Zephyrian Empire would stop all expansion plans. All military resources would be devoted to defensive preparations, and they would begin sharing intelligence with other races on the Vegan Republic capital. President Zara Vex was having a similar conversation with her generals. The vegans had been planning their own expansion, but now those plans seemed foolish. The humans saved us from a war with the Altarians, she said. Without their interference, we would have lost millions of people. But they manipulated us, said one of her generals. They saved us, Zara replied firmly. There is a difference. Back at the Galactic Council, the questions continued. The representative from the Nexus Coalition was particularly angry. You destroyed our alliance, he accused Lisa. You turned our member worlds against each other. Your alliance was formed to attack human space, Lisa replied. We simply reminded your member worlds that they had more to gain from peace than from war. You had no right. Lisa's expression became cold. We had every right to defend ourselves, but we chose to use diplomacy instead of force. Would you prefer that we had used our battleships instead? The mention of the massive human battleships made the room fall silent. Everyone had seen the data that Dexmore had brought back. The humans could destroy any fleet in the galaxy. The council leader tried to restore order. Ambassador Carter, the galaxy has a right to know. What are your intentions now that your capabilities are known? Lisa smiled, and for the first time, it was a genuinely warm smile. Our intentions are the same as they have always been. We want peace. We want to be left alone, and we want to prepare for the threat that is coming. She activated a holographic display that showed the approaching alien fleet. The entire council chamber gasped as they saw the massive ships moving toward their galaxy. This is why we built our defenses, Lisa explained. Not to conquer you, but to protect you. When these aliens arrive, every race in the galaxy will need to work together to survive. The questions stopped. The anger faded. The reality of the approaching threat made all their petty conflicts seem unimportant. "What do you need from us?" asked the Altarian representative. "Cooperation," Lisa replied. "We need to share technology, coordinate defenses, and prepare for the greatest war in galactic history." Over the following weeks, the galaxy transformed. Old enemies became allies. Border disputes were forgotten. Trade agreements were signed to share resources and technology. Commander Jake Harrison was still patrolling the human border. But now his job was different. Instead of keeping aliens out, he was helping them coordinate with human forces. "Sir," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, "we have a Zephyrian fleet requesting permission to enter human space." Jake smiled. "Tell them they are welcome. Direct them to Admiral Stone's coordination center." This would have been impossible just a month before. But now, alien ships were regularly entering human space to work with human forces. The barrier was still there, but it was no longer a wall. It was a checkpoint. On Earth, Admiral Stone was meeting with alien military leaders. The same conference room that had once planned humanity's isolation was now planning galactic defense. The approaching aliens have technology that surpasses even our own, Stone explained to the assembled officers. "We will need every ship, every weapon, and every soldier in the galaxy to stop them." General Clark was working with alien engineers to upgrade their weapon systems. "Your energy shields are good," she told a group of Coranian technicians, "but we can make them better." The Coranians were eager to learn. They had seen what human technology could do, and they wanted to protect their worlds. Dr. Patricia Wong was sharing her research with alien scientists. "The approaching aliens use quantum manipulation," she explained. "Our standard weapons will not work against them. We need to develop new technologies." The collaboration was remarkable. Races that had been enemies for centuries were now working together, sharing their most closely guarded secrets. But the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity. The humans were no longer seen as a mysterious, isolated race. They were seen as protectors, as the guardians of galactic peace. Captain Ryan Mitchell was leading a mixed fleet of human and alien ships on a training mission. "Remember," he told his alien officers, "we are not just defending our own worlds. We are defending the entire galaxy." The alien officers nodded. They had learned to respect human leadership. The humans had been preparing for this war for centuries, and they knew how to win it. Ambassador Lisa Carter was giving a speech to the Galactic Council. The same room where she had once deflected questions about human territory was now united in purpose. "The rule still exists," she said. "No one enters human territory without permission. But now that permission is freely given to those who come, in peace and cooperation." The applause was thunderous. The galaxy had learned the truth about the rule, and they understood why it was necessary. "When the alien fleet arrives," Lisa continued, "they will find not just humanity waiting for them. They will find the entire galaxy, united and ready to fight." On the border of human space, Captain Nicole Brooks was watching the sensors. But now she was not looking for invaders. She was looking for allies. "Captain," said her communications officer, "we have incoming ships from 12 different races. They are requesting permission to join the defense fleet." Nicole smiled. "Permission granted. Welcome to the fight." The approaching alien threat was still decades away, but the galaxy was already changing. Old hatreds were being forgotten. New alliances were being formed, and at the center of it all, humanity stood ready to defend the galaxy they had protected in secret for so long. The rule "no one enters human territory" still existed, but now the galaxy understood why. It was not about keeping others out. It was about keeping the peace until the day when peace would no longer be possible. That day was coming. But when it arrived, the galaxy would be ready, and they would have humanity to thank for it. The secret was out. The barriers were down, and the galaxy was united as never before. The rule had served its purpose. Now it was time for a new chapter in galactic history.